Whoosh whoosh. With a slight movement in the void, Xiao Yan and Yuer's figures emerged one after another. Xiao Yan, are you all right? As they fell out from the door of the void, Yuer immediately noticed Xiao Yan's pale face and couldn't help but ask with concern. Cough, cough. I'm fine. Xiao Yan wasn't seriously injured, but the extreme and terrifying poison barrier from Bai Ruoqian earlier had some side effects. After all, Bai Ruoqian's identity as a mourner was far more powerful than the woeful poison body. If it weren't for a mysterious strong individual helping us just now, I'm afraid our situation would have been perilous. Xiao Yan said with a slight shiver as he recalled the incident. By the way, where are we now? After giving a brief explanation, Xiao Yan quickly asked. We're here, 5 rooms away from the center, Yuer replied, taking out a parchment map. 5 rooms. That's a long time. If it continues like this, we might not make it in time for the Master of Ferocious Souls breakthrough. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan frowned, feeling a rising sense of urgency in his heart. There were still 5 places left to break through before reaching the red-marked center, and the farthest one was nearly 15 spots away. With such a complicated route, a month's time would definitely not be enough. Forget it, let's go. With a mutter, neither of them hesitated, hastily swallowing some pills before continuing their journey. Sigh, what bad luck. I originally thought the guardian of the Western Divine Palace was quite powerful, but now it seems they are all just for show. None of them can even fight. At this moment, outside the red-marked northernmost point, a man with an unremarkable appearance and attire casually tossed a figure behind him and immediately complained. Behind him, 15 people lay unconscious, none of them weaker than a 6-star Docian, some even reaching the peak of 7-star Docian. Yet, despite their strength, all of them had been defeated by the Black Fiend Dragon Wolf. However, I never expected there would be a mourner in the far south. That's something I didn't foresee. The power of a mourner is likely something I can only match evenly with at best. It's better not to provoke them. The Black Fiend Dragon Wolf said in astonishment. It was clear that the one who had just helped Xiao Yan escape was the Black Fiend Dragon Wolf himself. Their brief encounter made him realize that the mourner's power was even greater than rumored. Moreover, the Black Fiend Dragon Wolf hadn't revealed his intentions to Xiao Yan right away because he wanted to gauge Xiao Yan's strength and also because he was suspicious of the Light Demon. He felt that something about the Light Demon wasn't quite right. But now there are still 2 places we haven't explored. These 2 places have an incredibly strong repulsion force against me. I don't even know where the Master of Ferocious Souls is. He spoke thoughtfully, then carefully hid the 15 people, confirming that they wouldn't wake up soon, before following Xiao Yan and Yuer. It had to be said that these 15 people were unfortunate. They had been strong guards of 3 locations, considered elders of the Western Divine Palace. But they had fallen to the forces of the Ghost Realm, whose eerie and sinister ghostly energy had no match for the Black Fiend Dragon Wolf, the powerful overlord of the Monster Realm. Meanwhile, in another location, Palace Master, powerful beings from the Ghost King realm have infiltrated our divine palace. They seem to have sensed our master's plan, said Hua Xiao, the leader of the ferocious soul guards, standing before Feng Hao in the heart of the Western Divine Palace. Feng Hao, with his eyes slightly closed, stood atop his throne. Upon hearing Hua Xiao's words, he opened his eyes with a trace of confusion. Ghost King realm? Soul Palace? Feng Hao asked, clearly intrigued. Though the Ghost King realm was generally low-key, some of their actions had caught the attention of other powerful beings in the Ghost realm. How many of them are there? Feng Hao asked. The great Soul Sovereign of Soul Palace, Hun Mietian, along with some insignificant little ones, Hua Xiao replied. To send a 7-star Docian just to disrupt the Master of Ferocious Souls' plan. These guys must be well prepared, Feng Hao mused. What about the supplies? After a brief pause, Feng Hao asked again. Everything the Master needs is ready. We should know the outcome in about a month. The next period will be the most critical time for the Divine Palace, Hua Xiao said, his voice filled with seriousness. Our Western Divine Palace is different from the other 3 palaces. We have both inner and outer sanctums. The outer sanctum is heavily guarded, while the inner sanctum is where 6-star and even 7-star Docians reside. They are nominally residing here, but in truth, they protect important items within the divine palace. This has led to the guards in our inner sanctum being far stronger than those in the outer sanctum. Therefore, we must conduct a thorough search of the outer sanctum and not let any suspicious person slip by. Lord of the Hall. Although there are many powerful figures in the inner hall, just to be safe, we should still. Hua Xiao expressed his concerns. That's unnecessary. The defenses in the inner hall are even more formidable than you think. Now, let's proceed. Search the outer hall thoroughly. If you find any suspicious individuals, kill them without question. A commanding voice filled the air. Sigh. Hua Xiao could only comply, unaware that this diversion would lead to serious consequences. Meanwhile, Hun Mietian, being exceedingly cunning, used the cover of numerous soul disciples to head towards the inner hall of the divine hall. Why? Is there no one here? As for Xiao Yan and Xun'er, they continued to swiftly head toward the center, the only direct path to the farthest northern point. They had no other choice. But when they entered the first room, they were puzzled. It was an extremely hot space, resembling a lava zone, with intense heat. Yet there was no trace of life or even any presence. What's going on here? Xun'er couldn't help but ask. There's an exit. Let's check it out, Xiao Yan said in a low voice, clearly encountering this situation for the first time. Creak. With a creak, the two easily passed the first threshold and arrived before the second stone door. The one who was supposed to be in that first space isn't sleeping, is he? Xun'er reacted after a while. Doesn't seem like it. Xiao Yan shook his head. After recalling the figure who had helped him in the toxic barrier earlier, he had some inklings. Let's go in. Without hesitation, Xiao Yan gently touched the second stone door, his hand pushing it open as he stepped inside. The second space was a quiet library, the scent of sandalwood filling the air, as if the ink had just been opened. But there was no one here either. Still no one? Xiao Yan muttered, as his suspicions seemed to be confirmed. Anything? Xun'er, normally talkative, now kept silent, staying close by Xiao Yan's side. Let's go to the third space. After a few more steps, they proceeded to the next area. The third space was a vast sea. The expanse was so immense that Xiao Yan felt a sense of dread. The air was thick with danger, but as expected, no guardians were present. At this moment, Xiao Yan couldn't help but laugh. Although he didn't know why the mysterious powerful figure had been secretly helping him, Xiao Yan felt that the figure did not harbor ill intentions and seemed to have some kind of request from him. From the missing guardians in these spaces, Xiao Yan was almost certain that the mysterious figure who had been secretly aiding him was the same person who had followed him for some time. Their strength was most likely at least at the 8-star Do Xian level. While Xiao Yan and Xun'er continued to verify their suspicions in the 5 spaces, they arrived at the center of the inner hall of the Divine Hall. This was the marked path to the northernmost red zone. It was an area of dark void. There were no strange phenomena here. Only 2 cliffs, towering over 1,000 meters tall. The cliffs were steep, surrounded by intricate black patterns that contained barely perceptible gray lightning power, making the structure incredibly solid, impossible to pass through by any means. To cross, one had to walk along the only bridge connecting the 2 cliffs. Strangely, the bridge was completely unadorned, just an ordinary stone bridge. Beneath the bridge lay an abyss, and the strange force in the area nullified flying and spatial abilities, making this place one of the most bizarre in the Divine Hall. The 2 cliffs appeared to be mirrored projections, identical in every way. At the top of each cliff was a circular cultivation platform, with no other structures in sight. At that moment, a lone, graceful figure slowly opened her eyes. Within her pupils, gray lightning traced out an ancient pattern, almost divine in its presence. Hoo-hoo. In some time, I should be able to complete the reincarnation, and when Thunder Lord Senior awakens, the power within me will be returned to my master. At that point, I can finally live as an ordinary person. The graceful figure rose slightly, stretching lazily, her slender curves on full display, her face tinged with a faint blush. However, the power of reincarnation is truly mysterious. No wonder someone as powerful as my teacher, at such a level, paid an incredibly heavy price when fighting the extraterritorial evil clan. After a moment, Duan Qifei muttered to herself again, clearly having realized quite a bit about reincarnation during her time in the process. The teacher she referred to was, of course, the one from her own reincarnation, Thunder Lord. After arriving at the Ferocious Soul domain, she was recognized by the Master of Ferocious Souls. Through the resources and methods provided by him, Duan Qifei had surprisingly gained early insight into reincarnation and touched upon its power. Now, she appeared outwardly just like any other noblewoman, but her strength had already surpassed that of an 8-star Do Xian, reaching a level where she could sense reincarnation. Although she may not yet have fully entered the first stage of reincarnation, she had undoubtedly become the most powerful individual in the Ferocious Soul domain. This, of course, was a backup plan prepared by the Master of Ferocious Souls for his breakthrough to devour the sacred flame. He knew that if his breakthrough failed, the Ferocious Soul domain would face simultaneous attacks from the Light Demon and the Soul-Devouring domain. At that point, the entire Ferocious Soul domain would cease to exist. Therefore, allowing Duan Qifei to sense reincarnation early was his precautionary measure. There was one thing, however. The Master of Ferocious Souls had deceived Duan Qifei. There are many types of reincarnators, and Duan Qifei's type is the purest and most powerful. Once she successfully completes her reincarnation, not only will Duan Qifei gain the power of reincarnation, but even Thunder Lord, who had been trapped in reincarnation due to his retained powers, would awaken again. At that point, there would be 2 reincarnation-level powerhouses. This type of reincarnation is the purest and most perfect because, during the process of comprehending reincarnation, it is akin to Duan Qifei learning to merge with Thunder Lord's power, inheriting his legacy. Once successful, the 2 reincarnation powerhouses would be born together. However, this method also has its drawbacks. Once the identity of a reincarnator is discovered and targeted by those with ill intentions, the super-strong individual trapped in reincarnation will be as weak as a blank sheet of paper, vulnerable to anyone's manipulation. At that point, both the reincarnation-level powerhouse and their chosen reincarnator could easily fall. Reincarnators have both advantages and disadvantages. After a while, the area became quiet again. This was clearly a retreat specially prepared by the Master of Ferocious Souls for Duan Qifei. The black markings on the cliff, combined with the thunderous power, made it a true treasure for Duan Qifei. On the other side, the 5th space was a vast plain, stretching as far as the eye could see. Unfortunately, there was still no sign of any strong guardians. Have the guardians of the 5 spaces disappeared? What's going on here? Could it be that someone has already gotten ahead of us? After investigating all 5 spaces, Yuer's expression became strange, and she asked worriedly, "I don't think so." Xiao Yan stood quietly on the plain, looking at the red passageway at the center of the plain, and smiled. "Why?" Yuer urgently asked, seeming to feel that Xiao Yan had known something since entering the 2nd space, but he had been keeping it to himself. From the 5 spaces, stretching from the southernmost point to the center, there are 7-star Do Xian level powerhouses. If the soul-devouring heaven arrived first, then his power must have reached the 8-star Do Xian level. But from what I observed, his power wasn't that strong, so there's only one possibility. Xiao Yan tried to analyze. What? Yuer blinked, half understanding, making it difficult for her to follow as Xiao Yan was being vague. Listen closely. To avoid being overheard, Xiao Yan whispered in Yuer's ear. No way. Yuer's eyes flickered as she listened. Xiao Yan had just hinted that a mysterious powerhouse had been secretly helping them, allowing them to progress smoothly along the way. Moreover, this mysterious powerhouse's strength might be that of an 8-star Do Xian? 8-star Do Xian? What does that even mean? That would be an extraordinarily powerful individual, someone at the highest echelons of strength. Even in the Ferocious Soul domain, an 8-star Do Xian would be a top-tier existence. Yuer found it hard to believe for a moment. Next, it's the red marker at the center. The danger here is the greatest, even more so than the 3 red markers at the far north, south, and center. Too bad we can't bypass this place. Otherwise, even if I had the courage of 1,000 men, I wouldn't want to enter here. The 2 stood on the plain, looking at the red passageway suspended in the air. Xun'er couldn't help but murmur. After all, even someone as strong as her teacher, the head of the Soul Hall, had shown a flicker of fear when mentioning this place. Clearly, there was something here that even he feared. The beings or powerhouses here are at least at the 8-star Do Xian level, but we still have to go. Xiao Yan spoke in a deep voice, then smiled again. Let's go. The two exchanged glances before suddenly soaring into the passage. There's this feeling of unease in the air, as if something is lurking just out of sight. It's so strange. I distinctly remember this feeling only appears around the master. An illusion? The black fiend dragon wolf muttered, following closely behind Xiao Yan and Xun'er. But as his gaze landed on the entrance to the passage, an uncomfortable feeling surged within him. Just as his words fell, the creature entered along with the others. In an instant, the three of them made their way toward the center of the divine hall, the red zone. Whether it was reincarnation, rebirth, or destruction, that remained uncertain. With a whoosh sound, Xiao Yan and Xun'er both simultaneously entered the space. Such overwhelming pressure. The moment they stepped into the red zone at the center, they found themselves standing on the midway point of one of the cliffs. The cliffs were steep, and small paths emerged along the way, stretching all the way to the top. What is this? Xun'er had just intended to take a closer look at the mysterious cliff when her attention was drawn to the brown patterns on the small paths. Unable to resist, she reached out her hand. Don't! Xiao Yan urgently shouted. Although he wasn't sure what the nature of the cliff was, he had an unsettling feeling, sensing that there were terrifying things hidden within. Boom, boom, boom. Xun'er quickly retracted her hand, but luckily there were no significant consequences. However, the entire black cliff emanated an invisible threat. Underneath the black patterns she had touched, there seemed to be something hidden that ordinary people could hardly detect. What is this? Xiao Yan, seeing Xun'er's actions, couldn't help but approach the cliff wall. The surface of the cliff was covered with irregular black stones, but beneath them, there was a subtle, hidden force. Thunder force. Xiao Yan focused all his attention and soon detected a terrifying thunderous power hidden beneath the cliff's stone blocks. This is probably a thunder field. Xiao Yan's expression darkened. The thunderous force concealed beneath the stones was not inferior to that of the Thunder Lord. For Xiao Yan, this was even more dangerous than dealing with the most formidable of enemies in the southern region. Let's go up first. After a brief moment of surprise, and realizing that there was no immediate threat around, Xiao Yan looked around and helplessly remarked, as he sensed a subtle aura at the top of the cliff. For some reason, this place gave him a strange sense of familiarity, but the power embedded in the black patterns caused Xiao Yan to shudder. He could clearly tell that it was the kind of power only a top-tier being, at least an 8-star Do Xian, would possess. Thud thud. A few minutes later, the two reached the top of the cliff. What's going on here? At this moment, Xun'er looked around, discovering nothing but a circular cultivation ground and a simple stone bridge connecting the two cliffs. She couldn't help but mutter. The top of the cliff was vast, but there was nothing else there. This is Xiao Yan? How did he end up here? Before they arrived, Duan Qifei had already detected Xiao Yan's aura and, seeing his figure on the cliff's edge, she hid herself perfectly in the void at the top of the cliff, as she couldn't afford to reveal herself. After all, the concealment techniques of a reincarnation realm expert were so advanced that even Xiao Yan couldn't perceive them. This should be the soul-severing bridge in the ghost realm that everyone has been talking about. Xiao Yan's gaze swept across the area before he spoke. Soul-severing bridge? Xun'er was taken aback upon hearing this, staring at Xiao Yan, as it seemed like he knew far more than she did. I only saw it mentioned in some ancient texts. In the ghost realm, there are countless eerie ghostly beings, and among them are strange and sinister places that one cannot ignore. The soul-severing bridge, according to legend, is a place where crossing it results in severe soul burning. A slight misstep could turn you into nothingness. However, if one successfully resists and crosses the bridge, they may be reborn. But throughout ancient records, no one has ever managed to cross it, Xiao Yan said after a moment of contemplation, his gaze fixed on the stone bridge connecting the two cliffs. The stone bridge was simple, almost like any ordinary bridge, and at the far end, a red stone door stood slightly ajar, clearly the exit to the next area. "What do we do now?" Xun'er asked, her voice tinged with confusion. "At this point, the only thing we can do is cross and see what happens." Xiao Yan shook his head, helplessly replying. The aura surrounding them was so powerful that it surpassed any expert Xiao Yan had encountered before. But with his current strength, he couldn't perceive any of the oddities. "Let's go." The two exchanged a glance, then Xiao Yan moved forward with Xun'er following closely behind. They headed towards the soul-severing bridge. This guy, how did he manage to show up here at such a crucial moment? And the master of the Western Divine Palace, Feng Hao, is known as the most cautious person among the four great divine palaces. What exactly is going on? Hidden in the void, Duan Qifei's thunder eye flickered continuously as he questioned with confusion. Given Feng Hao's strength and caution, it was impossible for him to make a mistake at such a critical moment, especially with the ferocious soul master involved. The fact that Xiao Yan and the others managed to enter here was likely not as simple as it seemed. Boom! The stone bridge was rather plain, but when Xiao Yan took his first step onto it, his body trembled involuntarily. Even the soul power in his spirit palace seemed temporarily severed by half. Such overwhelming pressure. In an instant, Xiao Yan felt as if he were carrying a 1,000-pound boulder on his back. His footsteps left prominent imprints on the stone bridge. The soul-severing bridge truly lives up to its name, but this isn't enough. Sensing that his Do Qi and soul techniques were being sealed, Xiao Yan could only rely on his instincts to move forward, struggling with each step. Crunch. With each step, the effort to lift and place his foot became increasingly difficult. The strength to keep moving came from Xiao Yan's body, which had been enhanced by the dragon god's first transformation. Without this amplification, Xiao Yan would likely be forced to retreat. When Xiao Yan finally reached the center of the soul-severing bridge with great difficulty, his pupils were drawn toward the endless abyss below. The purgatory-like black molten lava filled the entire cliff. If Xiao Yan were to fall, death awaited him. Boom! Just as Xiao Yan was lost in thought, two mysterious black mists suddenly surged from the tops of the two cliffs on either side of the bridge. With a thunderous force, they fused onto the stone bridge. At that moment, the once ordinary stone bridge emitted a chilling, deathly aura, like a 1,000-year-old cold hole, which deeply affected Xiao Yan. Soul-severing bridge, indeed, lives up to its name. Soul-severing jade on the soul-severing bridge. A sudden, authoritative voice rang out from the void. At that moment, a gray jade stone appeared above Xiao Yan's head. It absorbed the strange, deadly aura from the bridge, causing it to return to calm. "You." Hearing the sweet voice, Xiao Yan realized something and involuntarily looked up, staring at a certain spot in the dark void. "Go!" came the command from the void, without revealing the figure. A gray thunderbolt swept past, sending Xiao Yan and the others away. I wonder if this is the right decision. After sending Xiao Yan and his companion away, Duan Qifei reappeared at the top of the cliff, looking at the vanishing passage with an innocent expression. The ferocious soul master was blood-related to him, yet Duan Qifei had other reasons when it came to Xiao Yan. What was that just now? After successfully escaping, Xun'er asked in surprise. "A friend," Xiao Yan replied, not wanting to explain too much. He waved his hand with a smile. As for Duan Qifei, Xiao Yan didn't want to get too involved. "Let's go. Now, we only have the red mark to the far north. Also, my sacred flame is emitting a rather hot fluctuation. That should be the ferocious soul master's retreat," Xiao Yan said. Without any hesitation, they rushed toward the northernmost direction. Meanwhile, Black Fiend Dragon Wolf, Hun Miet Tian, Thunderlord, Feng Hao, Hua Xiao, the leader of the ferocious soul guards, all headed toward the same northern region. It seemed that this place was the most critical. In the northernmost part of the Western Divine Palace, the ground was covered in yellow sand, and the sand buzzed with sound. Violent forces turned into golden sandstorms, rampaging through the desert. The terrifying energy felt like it was brewing a world-destroying power. Russell, is this the ferocious soul master's retreat? Duan Qifei wondered. The intense energy fluctuation inside and the strange sealing power outside. It seems thoroughly prepared. But all of this is just adding to the sorrow, he said. His words were followed by a burst of black mist appearing before him. Without hesitation, it surged into the area. This was Xun'er. No one knew how he knew the layout of the Western Divine Palace, nor why he bypassed Xiao Yan and entered ahead of them. In the heart of the desert. This is the heart of the desert? Xun'er wondered. Could it be that the ferocious soul master intends to use the desert's power to dilute the sacred flame's strength? As he entered the core area, a desolate aura mixed with waves of dry, scorching heat hit him. As the great soul sovereign of the soul hall, Xun'er's soul body was naturally affected by the extreme heat and flames. No, the true ferocious soul aura is coming from over there. But this desert stretches for thousands of feet, and within it are 4 divine halls, each containing the ferocious soul master's presence. What is going on here? After a moment of unease, Xun'er's mind raced. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xiao Yan and the others arrived shortly after, but as soon as they stepped into the area, their expressions changed. The hidden dangers within the heart of the desert made both of them shudder. The master of ferocious souls should still be to the north, but why create 4 divine halls, each containing his aura? Xiao Yan stood suspended in the air, his gaze sweeping over the 4 divine halls below. They flickered, and he shook his head repeatedly. The 4 divine halls towered majestically, with silver walls containing some kind of special power that instilled fear in those who gazed upon them, even seemingly forming an eerie connection between them. Could it be some kind of illusion? Xun'er asked in confusion. No, wait. Xiao Yan's body suddenly stiffened as he paused in midair. I feel like something's wrong. Although we have the detailed map of the Western Divine Palace, the journey here has been too easy. Even with the protection of that mysterious 8-star Do Xian powerhouse, after so many strong figures in the Divine Palace have disappeared, why is it still so eerily quiet here? Moreover, what puzzles me most is that the Master of Ferocious Souls is the overlord of the entire Ferocious Soul domain, a great power who stands tall in the great thousand worlds. Such a person would prepare thoroughly before closing himself off to break through reincarnation. How could he make so many mistakes? Xiao Yan remained still, his body frozen in midair. From the beginning, Xiao Yan had forgotten about the Master of Ferocious Souls' abilities, instead being drawn to the lovesickness heartbreak flame. Now, upon careful reflection, this journey to the divine halls was full of mysteries, causing Xiao Yan to become cautious at the last moment. Are you saying? Looking at the series of question marks in Xiao Yan's expression, Xun'er's eyes flashed with a glint of insight as she spoke in a low voice. If you were the Master of Ferocious Souls, and had a method of using the devouring sacred flame to break through reincarnation, what would you do? Xiao Yan asked, posing the simplest of questions to Xun'er, while also answering it with a counter-question. I would conceal all information and find a quiet place to enter closed-door cultivation, even using all my power to protect myself. Xun'er replied. Then think about it. Our journey to the Western Divine Palace has been surprisingly smooth, as if it were arranged for us. I feel like this might be the Master of Ferocious Soul scheme, Xiao Yan said gravely after a brief silence, though he was still unwilling to believe it. Impossible. If that were the case, we'd be mere pawns in his hands. But what would he want with us? Xun'er shook her head. I carry several pieces of sacred flame with me. Naturally, he covets the cultivation methods inside me. And you must have something that attracts the Master of Ferocious Souls as well. Am I right? Xiao Yan asked. Your analysis is correct, but now that we're here, it's a matter of life or death, and that's in the hands of fate. Xun'er smiled wryly. She had already resigned herself to death, so she wasn't as fearful. Fate should still be in our hands, and since the Master of Ferocious Souls is a ghostly being, his strength will be greatly diminished when he devours the sacred flame. That's our only chance. So since we've come all this way, we can't leave empty-handed. Xiao Yan smiled. In that case, let's go. Xun'er also made up her mind and immediately headed toward one of the divine halls. I hope my guess is wrong. Xiao Yan shook his head, casting a reluctant glance at the 4 divine halls standing in the golden desert sands, a strange aura radiating from them. This place felt more ominous than any they had encountered before. Before long, they headed straight for the northernmost one, where the most intense sacred flame aura and the master of ferocious souls' presence could be felt. However, neither Xiao Yan, Xun'er, nor Hun Mietian noticed that ever since they entered, the positions of the 4 divine halls in the desert had begun to undergo subtle, bizarre changes. From the walls of the 4 divine halls, a faint, ancient formation began to emerge, connecting all 4 halls together. In the very center of the desert, an enormous illusory figure, ancient and timeless, stood. Whoosh! After waiting for so long, it's finally taken the bait. Suddenly, inside the northernmost divine hall, a man in a blue robe slowly opened his tightly closed pupils. A sense of relief filled his voice. Boom! As he moved, an overwhelming aura, like that of a ruler, spread throughout the vast hall. The divine power was immense. At the same time, within this vast hall, countless devouring flame crystals spread across the ground. In the center, a beautifully carved palanquin, etched with ancient runes, appeared. With each pulse, intense pink flame ripples are emitted. This energy is capable of destroying the world, yet after just a moment, it is entirely absorbed by countless flame-swallowing crystals. Repeated over and over, this transforms the divine hall into one of the most mysterious zones. Master of ferocious souls. Heartbreak flame. Clearly, this is the final destination of the journey to the ghost realm. This is such a strange place. There are no guards here. Xiao Yan and Xun'er arrived at the northernmost of the 4 divine halls, most likely the place where the master of ferocious souls is secluded, and Xiao Yan spoke up. Once we enter, take this. Not long after, looking at the imposing divine hall in front of them, Xun'er threw a pill surrounded by ghostly energy toward Xiao Yan. This seal clearly isolates part of the ghostly energy from affecting them. Thud. Without hesitation, Xiao Yan swallowed it, his figure turning into a streak of black flame as he and Xun'er entered the divine hall one after the other. The heartbreak flame was now within reach, and no matter what, it had to be tested. In the desert's core, the 4 divine halls, the northernmost hall. What a bizarre divine hall. So many crystals and such a powerful aura filling the air. This must be the place. Hun Mietian, standing in front of Xiao Yan and Xun'er, was the first to charge into the divine hall. Upon seeing the hall's interior, which only had a single passage, surrounded by countless flames-swallowing crystals, he couldn't help but murmur. Under these crystals, it seemed as if there were special waves. The black aura was cloaked by his black robe, and Hun Mietian remained on high alert. Whoosh! With a swish, Hun Mietian darted toward the core of the divine hall. The core of the hall was a vast, closed space, mostly flat ground. However, the prohibitions embedded in the earth made Hun Mietian's heart tremble. In the middle of the ground, there was a depression, where a small cyan island, reminiscent of a lake, lay. The cyan island was surrounded by flowing cyan water. As soon as Hun Mietian laid eyes on the water, a cold sensation involuntarily surged through his body. On the island, brilliant flame-swallowing crystals formed a crystal wall. The crystal wall surrounded a gorgeous palanquin, within which a faint pink flame flickered. Due to the obstruction of the red flame-swallowing crystals and the palanquin, the pink flames appeared incredibly mysterious. As the flames rose, they spread like pink liquid, creating gentle ripples of energy that resembled water waves. The surrounding cyan water tightly encircled the island, as if both protecting it and concealing the sacred flame's aura. Where is the master of ferocious souls? Hun Mietian, hidden beneath his black robe, could not help but focus his glowing eyes on the island before him. Heh, so you've come? After a moment, the entire space erupted as numerous red flame-swallowing crystals exploded into brilliant pink liquid, completely sealing the space. An undefeatable voice, as though the ruler of this realm resonated through the area. Master of ferocious souls. Though Tian had anticipated this, seeing the illusory figure on the island still caused him to mutter, "Not bad, but unfortunately, you will fall here today." The illusory black figure smiled slightly. He had naturally sensed Tian's burning gaze beneath the black robe, but at the same time, a surging killing intent rose from the master of ferocious soul's body. The heartbreak flame was already a great secret, and Tian's actions were as good as courting death. Soul Heaven Swordlock. Seeing the entire space being completely enclosed, Tian didn't hesitate. He tore open his black robe, revealing countless black markings wriggling like worms on his soul body's surface. Oh, ancient black patterns? The illusory master of ferocious souls was surprised, but after a moment, a sinister and cold smile appeared on his lips, and the dark ghostly energy within him surged like a flood. The master of ferocious souls had been in a highly tense state, and with his 8-star Do Xian power, dealing with Tian was naturally effortless. However, what the master of ferocious souls didn't expect was that Tian, a mere 7-star Do Xian, had made it here. If not for some extraordinary means, it could only mean there was a traitor within the Western Divine Palace. Clearly, this individual was the former. Someone from the Ghost King realm dares to interfere with my ferocious soul domain. Once I break through, I will definitely go to the Ghost King realm and show you what true power is. Boom! Like a ferocious beast roaring, the dark ghostly energy around the master of ferocious souls exuded an oppressive aura of superiority. This energy doesn't seem to be from an 8-star Do Xian's peak. Dark lines, welcome, my king. A roar erupted like a thunderclap, causing countless patterns on Tian's soul body to burn intensely with a faint, eerie glow. Tian's power suddenly vanished, only to be replaced by an even stronger force awakening within him. Whoosh whoosh. Master of ferocious souls, it's been a long time. Before long, Tian's body completely disappeared, replaced by a black mist hidden in the blood-red fog. King of 10,000 ghosts? To bring your true form here at the cost of a great soul sovereign, you're truly willing to sacrifice. The master of ferocious souls sneered as he observed the sinister aura in the blood mist. Same to you. As long as it's worth it, what's the harm in sacrificing some chips? A nonchalant voice came again from the blood mist. King of 10,000 ghosts. The ruler of the Ghost King realm among the many regions of the Ghost realm. Come then. Let me see what kind of power the perfect 8-star Do Xian master of ferocious souls truly possesses. If you lose today, I will take over the ferocious soul domain in your stead. Swish. As the words fell, the black mist and the blood fog suddenly formed a blurry silhouette. A pale hand emerged from deep within its sleeve, and with the surge of blood mist, a palm strike, 1,000 feet wide, shot directly toward the master of ferocious souls. Whoosh whoosh. Seeing such a powerful attack, the master of ferocious souls didn't react much. He merely glanced casually, and the surrounding eerie ghostly energy engulfed the strike, completely devouring it. Your strength is no more than mid-stage of 6-star Do Xian. The highest ruler of the Ghost King realm arrives, and this is your death sentence. The master of ferocious souls made no move. He simply stood still, his sinister gaze slowly fixed on the king of 10,000 ghosts, who was also surrounded by ghostly energy. Indeed, that's why I've prepared a special gift for you. I hope you like it. As the voice faded, black mist surged like a spring from the king of 10,000 ghosts' body, easily filling the entire sealed divine hall. In that moment, the atmosphere was as ominous as the true end of the world. I hope you won't disappoint me. The master of ferocious souls glanced again at the pink flames and the exquisite palanquin beneath his feet, both slowly merging. One last look outside the divine hall, he spoke again. It seemed as if the master of ferocious souls was deliberately stalling for time, and he appeared entirely unconcerned about the king of 10,000 ghosts or other powerful figures disrupting his breakthrough. It was more like he was waiting for something, and at this moment, standing outside the divine hall, only Xiao Yan and the others remained. It seemed as though the master of ferocious souls